Okay, welcome back to JLI. As you know, we had a very successful year last year with our Soul series and our Jewish course of Why. So as you can see on the wall, the three courses this year, starting this week, are going to be on Success Thinks. The second course, beginning at the end of January, is going to be about ethical conundrums, modern day ethical issues, and with interpretation from the Talmud and law. And then in honor of the 50th anniversary of the Six-Day War, after Passover, we're going to be talking about the Six-Day War and the lessons. But first, let's start with this one without getting ahead of ourselves. So, as with all our classes and talks over here, it's all about perspective. It's not me telling you how do you have to be. The whole point is that by us offering what the Torah has a view on, then you can apply it in your daily life. So it's about perspective. It's not about advice. So like I tell a story of the guy Joe who's complaining, wasn't feeling well, so he goes to the doctor. And the doctor tells him, he says, you have very high cholesterol and your health is very poor. Do you smoke? He says, yeah, 2 packs a day. And do you eat fatty foods? Yeah, meat every day. So exercise? Where's time for exercise? Well, that's got to pay. That's got to change. So then the doctor hands Joe a bill for $500. So what's this for? She says, what do you mean? Came to the doctor. I gave you advice. He said, who's following your advice? Right? So it's about perspective. But in order to gain that perspective, we're gonna have to, especially in this class, write down some of the things you have in your mind, and then base it on. Then we introduce what the Torah says, and we'll change it based on what you think. So we'll start on page number 2, exercise number 1. So the first class is getting off the bandwagon, define your personal success. So in order to do that, exercise number 1, you have a pen in front of you. The pen is free. But what do we charge for? Okay. And list some of your personal goals, areas in your life when you like to be more successful, but you're finding it difficult. And then what's preventing you from succeeding in these areas? That's so important to partake in it, because I'm sure you guys respect me as a scholar and a genius on par with no one, but that's not why you're here. We're here because we want to try to find more success in our lives, in our day-to-day lives, and then see how would your life be different if you were successful in these areas. Okay. I won't ask you to share and open, because many times these answers are private. Okay, so I'll just give examples of what other people have done the class have said. Some people, they're estranged from a family member, they want to reconcile. Some people want to lose weight. Some people, they have an entry-level position at a company, they want to move up. And some people have a character flaw: they're anger, selfish, they're petty, they're lazy, and they want to overcome. And these certain things are blocking them from the success. So the course is going to be 6 units, each one interdependent on its own. And we're not going to be able to cover all the information, answer all the questions in one class. So tonight we're going to focus on how do you define success, and then, for example, in the next class, next Tuesday, or for those in Century Village on Sunday, we'll talk about how to overcome impediments to success. Okay. Let's talk about success. How we define success. So before we define, on a daily level, let's define it on how, not in a specific area, but how we look at it in life. When you think about the word success, it's kind of hard to put a finger on it. We all have an idea of what it looks like, but sometimes it's hard to define what it really is. So, for example, in the 1950s, this was a picture of success. Downloaded this off the internet. I put it in 1950s Success poster. and this will kill you. You know, 1950s. Sorry, I said 60s and 50s. Live in the suburbs, home, garden, sunshine. This is what it is. But as we're going to see, times have changed, and success has changed. And obviously, you know, the definition of success is not absolute. Every person, according to, you know, where they are, who they're from, it changes. But we're gonna do an exercise. This is important, okay? And no cheating. You turn to page 3. Write down in your head, what would you consider a successful day? See what a successful day looks like. Next. If you want to write in the book, these are disposable copies. You can, if you want to write in the book, that one, that's only a copy of the first lesson.
Okay. Thank you. I see. Okay.
Now, exercise number 3, page number 4. Turn the page, and we purposely designed it this way. What would you consider a successful life? So the question is, I guess, is a successful life defined by nice house, white picket fence, a dog? You know, 1.6. That's what people have these days. 1.6 kids on average. I don't know how you have a 0.6. Right? That's right, my kids. Next time, babe. Right? Early retirement. Right? So for many years, this is how people thought what success is. This picture right here: house, yard, fence, dog, goldfish, right? And being able to go away. But interestingly, that trend is changing. If you look at, there's a great article, it was in the New York Times, maybe it's because of the Great Recession, and people weren't able to have as much stuff. But the old middle class picture of success is changing. Look at the article on text number 1, page number 4. Alina Tujen writes this article. It says the idea that people are eager to find or define success outside the normal parameters is backed up. They did a study by American Express. Did it? They said it's less about attaining stuff and being more secure in their marriage and relationship. And according to the Monitor report, many fewer people see owning an expensive car as a sign of success, while being satisfied and in control of your life, having grown over the years. So we see here that as time has gone, people have come to understand that material success does not define what real success is. And it's in these times. So now we have to go back to our definition of success to see what we define as a successful day, and then as a successful life. And if you look at the 2 exercises you did, exercise number 2 and 3, compare those 2. Most probably, many people, I'm not going to point out any particular. So most people look at a successful day, right? I took out the garbage on time, got to work on time, right? I had it, whatever. I made it through. I had a successful board meeting, whatever it is, right? All the, what we call in Yiddish, the kleine kite, the small stuff that make up a day. When we look at a successful life, we don't care about if we made it to work on time, and we don't care about, you know, whatever it is, if we managed to make it to Publix, or, you know, if we did something. It's interesting that our life goals are different than our day goals. How can there be? If my success story of a day, how come it doesn't add up to my successful life? So obviously there's a disconnect between our daily success and our life success. And there's a very interesting talk, which a man named David Brooks, after the class, we're going to send out an email. There's going to be a link to this, should be. If not, I'll make sure it's there. To this David Brooks, who gave a TED talk. And you see, text number 2. he writes over there that there's a difference between resume virtues and eulogy virtues. So resume virtue is what we want to put out in the public, in the working environment. We want people to know that we're successful at whatever it is we're doing. So we could be punctual at work, right? We could be goal-oriented, whatever it is that we put on, But somehow, our eulogy virtues, our life virtues, no one gets up at a eulogy and says that Joe Goldstein, he was a very punctual guy. He clocked in at 9 o'clock, right? Every day. So we see here, and you'll see the eulogy virtues are deeper. They're the virtues that get talked about at the funeral. Most would say that the eulogy virtues are more important. Everybody says the eulogy virtues are more important. But what happens is we get so thrown off kilter, we get thrown off topic, that we spend so much time focusing on our resume virtues and not enough time focusing on your eulogy virtues. By the way, feel free to ask questions whenever I talk, unless someone interrupts me. So, and as whoever's here in Shabbos knows, that can go on for a while. So, feel free. So, and this is what happens. So, and he says, public conversation is too the self-help tips in magazines and the nonfiction bestsellers. Most of us have clearer strategies of how to achieve career success than we do for how to develop a profound a character. And this is what we want to define tonight, or what it means to have clear success. And I'm going to have to introduce something which Chassidus talks about. It's a little bit a profound concept. It's a deep concept, but it's very true when you sit in it and you dwell in it and you internalize it. In Hebrew, there's something called ratzon. Ratzon means desire. You want something. All the things we want. So in Chassidus, it's called pnimius ratzon, the inner will, and chitzonis ratzon, the outer will. Look at text number 5. Text number 3. Student page 6. The fifth Chabad Rebbe, who is known as the Encyclopedia of Chassidus, he clearly defined and elucidated on deep concept. He says, within the faculty of will, there are 2 dimensions. There's what's the outer will, and then the inner will. What's the outer will? Take someone who's interested in business, right? If you're in business, what do you want? So you want to make money on a certain deal. Do you really care about the deal? No. You care about what you can get out of the deal, the money to support your family. So the outer will, he says, it's a desire that exists for another purpose. So you want to have a meeting, you want to have a listing, using Sabrina's career as an example. She's a realtor. So do you really care about the house? No, you care about what you want to sell the house, not because you love the house, it's because you want to support your family. Right? Does that make sense?
I mean, that's part of it.
But that's why we do it. You don't intrinsically have a connection to the house. You have an intrinsic connection to your family, and you work to support your family. So, but the inner will is you desire the thing itself. You have a connection to the item itself, which usually family is a great example. So let's say, for example, a husband buys his wife flowers, or a ring, whatever it is, or chocolate. Let's not agree that ring has actual real value. Let's say, right? Does he really want about the flowers and the chocolate? No. It's the relationship. It's the love he has for his wife. It's a connection. And what he's doing is he's expressing it through flowers. And if he expresses it through chocolate, also good. And this is important because later on we're going to focus on the fact that outer will changes and inner will does not. Any questions? Does this make sense to everybody? Before we go on, because this is very important. This is the foundation for the definition of success. Outer will is something we do it's a means to get to an end. So unfortunately, for example, some people get so caught up at work, they forget why they're working. They work for the families, right, to support the families, but they get so caught up in what they're doing, they forget why they're working. Watch this video, you'll see what I'm talking.
Such is the irony of life that we end up wanting a myriad of things that we do not really want at all. Here, let me give you an example of a chain of 6 common wants, each of which is desired only for the sake of feeding a greater goal. This electrical device is designed to sound at the same time set in advance. Joe is fanatical about setting it before going to sleep, and if he misses a night, he kicks himself silly in the morning for forgetting. But let's be honest, he'd rather not have his sleep shattered by its noise at the AM. So does Joe want the alarm, or doesn't he? Ah, but it's not the alarm Joe truly desires. He wants the ability to get up on time. Well, not entirely. He'd rather sleep in a bit. What truly matters is that he gets to work on time. Well, perhaps not, were it not for the unpleasant consequences. He'd rather show up at his own convenience. All that he really wants is to maintain a job. Thinking about it, Joe doesn't really want to work. He'd rather win the lotto and never see the bowels of an office again. It's not the job that attracts him, but the paycheck that follows. But is his paycheck worth all that hassle? Maybe not. But he wants to support his family, and that's the only way to go about it. But why does he want to support his family? I know, that's a silly question. He loves them and cares for them as he loves and cares for himself, and there's no questioning that. So let's take a deep breath and recap. Joe wants an alarm because he wants the ability to rise on time, because he wants to arrive at work on time, because he wants a job, because he wants to receive a paycheck, because he wants to support his family. He wants a lot of things, but each of these is simply a means to an end. None of them express his true will. His truest and deepest desire is to have a family and care for that family that he has. This is an expression of his very core and does not have to bow to logic. As for the rest of those wants, he doesn't truly want them at all. As they say, when there's a will, there's a way, but it's all too easy to lose sight of the will along the tumultuous way.
Okay. So I hope that video explained it, right? So some people, some people, like I said, they love themselves, right? Some people say, "Why do you love your wife?" Well, she makes a good casserole, right? So you don't love your wife, you love yourself. I told the story with the guy who's eating the chicken. I told it a bunch of times. The rabbi walks in and says, "You love chicken?" He says, "Yeah, I love chicken." So you know what they did to that poor chicken? He says, first they slaughtered it, they plucked it, they salted it, they cooked it, and now you're eating it. So you don't love the chicken, you love yourself, right? So it's important to define what we really want and what it's called outer will. So let's go through some differences between inner will and outer will. The first difference is that outer will is tangible. And why is that? Because generally speaking, the deeper the desire, the more abstract it is, the harder to put a finger on it. The more external it is from us, it's easier to define. So, for example, an outer will, I want this, so I can fill it right away. But an inner will is it's what's called it's connected to the etzem. It's connected to who I really am. So therefore, it's abstract and intangible. Yes. So you see, number two. Number two is outer will is changing. Inner will doesn't change. Look at text number 4 on page number 7. Going back to Sholem the Lubavitch. He says that it's very possible, based on the circumstances, the outer will can change. So going back to the example, the husband given to his wife. He wants to express affection for his wife. Does it really make a difference how he expresses that affection? Come late, straight out from front of the Sunday. Right? So is there really a difference how he expresses that affection? No, that can change. But the affection, that doesn't change. Outer will is subject to change, and it can even be withdrawn. Inner will, on the other hand, is not for some other purpose. It is for his own purpose. It does not exist for some other reason. It comes from the essence of one's being, and therefore cannot be changed or withdrawn. Inner will is everlasting because it is essential. There's an example in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of Our Fathers, talking about love. Pirkei Avos says a love that is dependent on something will not last, but a love that is not dependent on something is subject to fault. And Pirkei Avos gives an example. Example there is given of Amnon and Tamar. Without getting into all the with all the historical background, very quickly is that David had 18 wives, and he had children from a bunch of them. And anyway, so the two children who, one was Amnon, one was Tamar. They weren't really sisters. They weren't really brothers and sisters. Anyway, just to make a long story short, Amnon lusted for sister-in-law, well, not sister, half-sister, something, Tamar, right? And what happened was he forced himself on her. And you would think he finally satisfied his desire. He got what he wanted, he'd be happy. But he wasn't happy. He rejects her. Why? Because the love wasn't for the love itself, it was for some external reason. And then Pirkei Avos gives another example of David and Jonathan, King Shaul's son. Now they had every reason to have animosity. King Shaul was trying to kill David. David was going to be the future king, but their love was not based on one thing. The love was a subject, was a function in and of itself. Therefore, it wasn't subject to change. So all these expressions of outer will, it can change, but in inner will that doesn't change. So going back to the alarm clock, he can wake up a million other ways. He can have a phone, or he cannot have a job, right? You become a rabbi, right? You don't have to wake up in the morning, right? That's why God told us to go to Minyan, right? Right? But he doesn't care about the alarm clock. He needs to wake up. But that desire to care for his family, that doesn't change. Are we all good before we go on? Yeah. I told you this is profound stuff. Because again, if we don't define it properly, then the rest of it is, we don't have a good foundation, and the rest of it goes down the toilet. The third difference is that an outer will, while it's easily attained, it's not gratifying. It's satisfying, it's not gratifying. So you can get what you want, going back to Amnon and Tamar, but you don't feel good about it. And you're always looking at someone else's success to define success. So an outer will, it's a fleeting achievement. It feels good, but only for a second. I want it because it's not really connected to you. But an inner will, once you attain what you really want because of who you really are, there's a satisfying, gratifying feeling. You know, I was watching football the other day, and there was a commercial for Pepsi. And I want to show part of the commercial because it's exactly what I'm talking about over here. Pepsi, about feeling good about yourself, was exactly what I was talking about over here. So I downloaded the commercial and I trimmed it a little bit here. She just won by
23rd time is the card clip.
Yeah, you showed me.
Here comes the important part.
This must be how Odell Beckham feels when he scores a game-winning touchdown.
This must be a silly something showing that purple band.
Right? So if your success is always something else, so when I was preparing for the class, I said this is exactly what it is. Your success is never your own. It's always something else. You're never achieving something that belongs to you, that's your own. And think about it. The more something is connected to you, the more comfortable you are. So if you remember when we were all younger, right? We started going out. You feel the pressure to say something, right? You have to say something to break the ice. But the longer you are in a relationship, you can go and be in the presence of your loved one. You don't sing. You're fine. You're comfortable. What happened? Because you're connected to who you really are. So there's no need to fabricate some external satisfaction with something from the outside to make you feel good. You're connected to your inner will. Make sense? Okay. So now So now we can go to exercise number 4. So you see over here. Can you think of an example of inner and outer wills in your own life? Try to think of an area in your life with multiple levels of desire and fill in the blanks accordingly. I love, I like, I love, I want, blank, because it's on page 8. Because I really like, love, whatever it is. You can write it in. I'll wait for you. Now then, what happened to Heidi?
Working.
That's not the way to succeed. Take it from around. So to summarize this part, the inner and outer wills are different from each other in substance and function. So generally speaking, the deeper the desire, the more abstract and intangible the object of the desire. The more external the desire, the easier it is to quantify and think. Okay. So now let's talk about an essential difference and an essential differentiation between an inner and an outer will. There's a saying in Yiddish which says, "A Mensch tracht und Gott lacht," which means man makes plans and God laughs. We say it every day in prayers. Rabot machshavot b'levish. Many are the thoughts and plans of men. V'atzat Hashem yitakum. But the plans of Hashem, those are the ones that last. That means we all have a picture of how we want things are supposed to be. So let's say, for example, I want to be CEO. I want to be a millionaire. I want to live in 30-room mansion. I want to fly around to Europe first class. I really want these things. It's only one problem. On how to money. It's a small problem. The rabbi got up and for a sermon. He says, "I have good news and I have bad news." So the good news is we just raised $30,000 needed to fix the roof. The bad news is the money's in your pockets, right? So the problem with outer will is when the circumstances change or become prohibitive, you can't fulfill what it is you want. But an inner will doesn't make a difference where you are or what circumstances you're subject to. You can always do it. So you see with the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement. So he says the outer will is dependent on circumstance. But the inner will is not dependent on circumstance. So for example, it's very, very interesting what the Baal Shem Tov writes in text number 5. He says you have to serve God with all your might. You might find yourself in a scenario where you cannot serve God for whatever reason. Someone's talking to you, or you're traveling, and you say, "Oh my God, I can't travel. I can't pray because this guy's talking to me, or I'm traveling. What should I do? How should I serve God?" He says the last paragraph: "Do not be disturbed by this. God wishes to be served in all possible ways. Sometimes in one matter, sometimes in the other." It means serving God, if it's your inner will and you have an ability to connect to it no matter the circumstance. And one of the heroes of the Chabad movement in the past 100 years is a man named Mendel Futterfass. You've been coming to my classes in Shabbos, you've heard me mention his name many times. Mendel Futterfass was a chassid of the previous Rebbe, and then he became a chassid of the Rebbe. And he was in Russian Gulag prison for 14 years in Siberia. And when he was there, so there were different prisoners there. There was the intelligentsia, and then there were he naturally gravitated toward the intelligentsia. He was an intelligent man. And whoever knew him always remembered he always had a bounce about him. He's always besimcha, he always had joy. So once they're sitting around as a doctor, an author, all these different people, scientists. He said, "I don't understand, Mendel." He says, How are you always so happy?" So, how does the Jew answer your question? What question? So he says, "How come you're not happy?" That's a better question. Right? So he says, "What do you mean?" The doctor says, I was on the verge of a medical breakthrough, and the author said I was in the middle of writing a book. They all gave a reason why Their life was miserable because they were trying to do something, and because of the Soviets, they couldn't do anything. So Rav Mendel says, that's the problem. So you're all dejected because your incarceration prevents you from realizing your goal. My goal in life is to serve God. So I can do it in Moscow, I can do it in Lubavitch, I can do it in Siberia. That's what I do. And there's a great story, it's a joke, but it's very, very powerful. There was once a businessman who was traveling to the islands. And he's walking on the beach and he sees a small fishing boat come in. And the guy comes out with a tuna, fat fish. He says, wow, he says, that's a very nice fish. He says, tell me, so what's that for? He says, I have it to support my family. And he said, what do you do after that? He said, well, relax, play with my kids, smoke some cigars, fish for fun. So the businessman said, not good. So why not? What's wrong? So let me tell you what you got to do. You got to stay out longer to fish. And then you'll bring in a lot more tuna. And then you can make money. And then when you make money, you can buy another boat. And then you'll be able to buy another fleet of boats. And then you'll grow and you'll come to the States, you'll come to the city, you'll have a whole big building, you have a whole massive operation and millionaires, and then you'll be able to retire. So he says, tell me, how long is this going to take? I don't know, 10, 20 years. And tell me, what's retirement mean? Oh, retirement means you move to a small village where you can fish, smoke cigars, and play with your kids. He says, thank you. Yeah, he says, the point is like this. I'm falling behind. So the outer will, the outer will and the inner will. The outer will is immediate and quantifiable. The inner will is abstract and tangible. The outer will keeps changing. The inner will is enduring. The outer will is fleeting achievement. The inner will is deeply satisfying. And the outer will is dependent on circumstance, but the inner will is not dependent on circumstance. We must always remain focused on what essential inner will is, who we really are, and by focusing on that, then we can start the whole concept of how to succeed. Because when you're focused on the wrong things, then you can never succeed. Any questions before I go on? Now that you're worried, no.
What is that noise?
That's the pump of the air conditioner. Why does that? I don't know. As long as it doesn't leak on my desk, I'm happy. You do your thing, I do my thing.
That's its inner will.
Exactly. It wants to be heard, right? So many times, we let our outer will. So people who, for example, they have a fight with a friend or family. Why they pick up the phone? They're uncomfortable. They don't like how the conversation is going to be. It's awkward. The people who are addicts, they'll say, just do the next right thing. Don't focus on the future. If you focus on what you're supposed to do, then you can be successful. Okay. So we know. Remain focused on the inner will and adapt the means to achieve it. Okay. So now we know what's wrong with all of us. We have inner will, we have outer will. So the question is, well, if I'm doing inner will, I'm not doing outer will. So which one do I do? Which one do I do? So how do you succeed? So I get everything I want. That's outer will. If I don't get anything, that's inner will. But I don't have anything, so I'm not successful. So which is it? So the idea is like this: people who are not successful, according to Kabbalah, Chassidus explains, success is when the inner will and the outer will are aligned. That means there's no conflict between who you are and what you're trying to achieve. That means your daily goals help you to achieve your life goals. That's the first step to success. It's alignment of the two. So in a successful life, the outer will serves the purpose of the inner will. And you see student page number 10 and the figure 1-1 to correctly define success. In your mind, now that we know this, what the outer will is and the inner will is, now you can correctly define success. What it really means to succeed as a person. Because a successful person, as we're going to see now, and there's a great appendix. You can check it out afterwards on page 21, where they use different terminologies we're learning instead of inner. It says intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, or internal and instrumental. It's a very, very nice article. In the back, you'll see it after the class. You can read it. So a successful person is somebody who has this one. And as a Jewish person, your obligation is to challenge me. Very nice, Rabbi. Show me a person who's done that. I can talk all of these things, but we have to have a living, breathing example of somebody who was able to achieve this balance of inner and outer will. The answer is Yosef. Yosef, who was Yaakov's son, the 11th of 12 children. I don't know if that qualifies as middle child syndrome, but somewhere at the tail end. So Yosef, his brothers were jealous of him, and they sold him to be a slave in Egypt. And see in text 6a, Yosef went down to Egypt, and he was bought as a slave. And everything he did, what's the key word? God was with Joseph, and he was a successful man. He's the only person in the Torah called a successful man. No one else is called successful. Not Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, nobody. He's the only person called successful. So you might think, well, Joseph had it easy, right? He was second to the king, and he was Yaakov's son. But those who know the story of Joseph know he had a very, very hard life. And he was successful as a slave. If you look at text 6b. Joseph, why was he in prison? Because of some trumped up rape charges against him. His master's wife accused him, and he was thrown in prison. And again, we see in prison that he was successful in everything he did. He was successful. So it's interesting and peculiar that the only person in the Torah defined and given the title of a successful person was a person who was a slave and he was incarcerated. And Yosef was a person who had every reason to be angry at the world. Can you imagine? Before WhatsApp, and before the telephone, before the United States Postal Service, right? All that. He was alone in another country. You know how old he was? He wasn't an adult. He was 17 years old when he was sold. And he was 17 years old, and he had every reason to lose that fundamental core of who he is. And through it all, he remains true to who he truly is. And how do we know this? Because there's a reference in the Torah. One of the rules in the Torah is the Torah never repeats itself. Every word in the Torah is exact. So if you see text number 7, it says when the Jews went down, when Yaakov came down to Egypt in the beginning of Exodus, the Torah gives a whole list of all the people that descended. And then it says, and Yosef was in Mitzrayim. Now Rashi, the great commentator, says, you know Yosef was in Mitzrayim. Right? Obviously, you didn't start the book of Exodus before you started the book of Genesis. Right? Unless you want to be like one of those people who read the last page first. Right? And so we already know that Yosef was in Mitzrayim. So Rashi says, the fact that it wasn't to teach us that Yosef was in Mitzrayim was that although Yosef was in Mitzrayim, oops, let's go here. Am I skipping some? Oh, here we go. So it says, and Yosef who was in Egypt. So what Rashi is saying was that yes, Yosef was in Egypt. That although Yosef was in Egypt, he was committed to his inner will. Do you know what Yosef's brothers and his fathers did for a living? They weren't accountants. They were shepherds. Why were they shepherds? I guess it's been a year since we studied it, so I can't go too hard on you guys. But give it a few weeks when we get to the story. Why were Abraham, Isaac, Jacob? Why were they all shepherds? Huh? So because when you're a shepherd, what do you do the whole day? You sit and you sit and the sheep eat, and you're free to meditate, right? That's what they wanted. They wanted to be left alone. So no one had a challenge to. Because you're looking at me and you're saying, Rabbi, it's very nice. You're talking about all these things, inner will, and doing what God says and what I really want. But the fact of the matter is, tomorrow I have to wake up again and I have the kids and, all the list of problems that distract us. So Yosef was in Egypt. Yosef was a slave. And then he became the second most powerful person in the world. I'd say the vice president, but the vice president is not really the second most powerful person. Right? Jackie Mason says, right, great line. So what's the vice president's job? Wakes up in the morning, asks the president, "You feeling okay? You sure? No cold? Sure you're okay? All right, no problem." There's nothing wrong, right? I don't know. This administration might be different. We'll see. So what's interesting is that in the entire Torah, how many righteous people are there in the Torah? We're talking about in the Bible. How many righteous people? A lot. Adam and Noah and the forefathers and the tribes and Moses and Aaron, right? And Eliyahu and Joshua. The list goes on and on and on. How many of those righteous people have a title tzaddik? The righteous. One. Yosef. Can you imagine? Avram is not called Avram the righteous. Moshe is not called Moshe the righteous. The only person who's called the righteous is Yosef. Why? It's because he had all the challenges of living in the outside world, all the challenges of power and indignation, but he remained committed to his inner will, even though he was in Egypt. So now, why does the Torah attribute success to only one person? It's Yosef, because he is the epitome. He is the paradigm of a successful person. So all these lessons that we're talking about, he says, Rabbi, they're very nice ideas, but it's not practical for the outside world. It's not true. Yosef showed us that it can be done. Good. You guys are way too quiet. I'm putting you to sleep. No? All right. So here's step number one to how to be successful. How to have the approach. The idea is nothing matters. Makes sense? Nothing matters. So let's go. Okay, we learned until now there's a difference between inner and outer will. There's a line from a man named Stephen Covey. Heard of him? And he has a great line. You know, there's a little bit of a knack, a talent for saying deep things. Right, Woodward? And he said like this: the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Right? Yes?
No, I got it.
Okay, good, because I'm gonna use another one of these in a second, so you got it right. So he said the first aspect of living a successful life is to identify. It's to identify the things that matter. The second aspect is to identify the things that don't matter. So, for example, if you look at text number 8, the Gemara says, "Who is a successful person? A person who's insulted but doesn't insult in revenge. He hears reproach without replying. He serves God." Identify things that matter, ignore the things that don't. And as the scripture says, they that love him are like the sun as it goes forth, right? In Kabbalistic teachings, it's called hishtakut, equanimity, which means you have the same stoic indifference to all the outside influences. What stops a person from being successful? Distraction. But no matter what happens, he has the same attitude towards everything. There's a poem, it's long, I just wrote down a little bit by a poet called Rudyard Kipling. And he said like this: if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can treat with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. That means no matter what happens, stay the same. Nothing affects you. And this is alluded to the pasuk in Tehillim in Psalms, text 9a. It says, "Shiviti Hashem lenegdi samich." I have said God before me always. Now the word shiviti is translated as set, but the Baal Shem Tov, that word, the shiviti also comes from the word shiva, which means equals. Look at text 9b, and he says that what the Torah is trying to say is that no matter what happens in life, because until now we've been applying it to the negative, right? So when something bad happens to you, you're okay, you're fine, because you understand that everything's happening for a reason. But he's saying over here something even more. He's saying the good, the root shva equal. So he's saying that whatever something may happen, it comes from God. So your motives are all together for the sake of heaven. So what he's saying is that I'm stoic because God is before me, that I understand that everything happens for a reason. So therefore, I don't let things take control of me. So you see the question for discussion on page 15, what underlying beliefs and presumptions are needed to attain a shtafa mindset? So if you look back, so what it is, it's the faith, it's the courage to live your life as everything that happens does so for the highest good and learning, like it or not. It means you remain calm because everything happens for a reason. There's a story with it's a little off the subject. I know everything. I know it's not the perfect context. Story of Rabbi Akiva. He was traveling and he came to a town. He was a great Rabbi Akiva. No one wanted to give him more and more. The whole town was a bunch of scoundrels. So he had to sleep in the outskirts of town, in the forest. And he had with him a donkey to ride, and a chicken for his alarm clock, a rooster, and a candle. So he's sitting there. All of a sudden, a wild lion or some vicious animal comes and eats the donkey, and a wild cat comes and kills the chicken. And a wind, and he said, okay, at least I have my candle, I can learn Torah. A wind comes and blows out the candle. Now, all of us, at least me, I'd be cursing in all my languages that I know. I'm video here. I can't say all the curse words that I know. So I come from a Russian descent. I married an Argentinian. Thank God, I'm very well literate, right? So Rabbi Akiva doesn't remain stoic. He said everything Hashem does is for the best. He goes to sleep. In the middle of the night, he wakes up. There's a whole commotion. So some bandits attacked the town. They ransacked the town. They took everyone prisoner to sell as slaves. And then he sees how they pass within. They're very close. And he realizes if the donkey and the chicken would have made noise, I would have seen the candle. I would have been there also. So afterwards, we're all, the whole point is that when all those things happen, he remains calm. Because he realizes that everything happens for a reason. It doesn't change who he is as a person. And this answers the question for discussion. The difference between the Gemara and the Baal Shem Tov. Because there's two different elements that can change people. There's when bad things happen to a person, negative experience, where's God? And that's one challenge. There's a whole discussion. I'm not going to get into it. There's a whole discussion. Is it harder to be rich or harder to be poor? Don't answer the question right away off the cuff. Think about it. They're both great challenges. So the Gemara talks about when somebody embarrasses you, screams at you, how to digest it. But the Baal Shem Tov says, what about when things are all going good? Someone comes over to you and says, "Oh wow, you're great," and everything else. How do you remain focused? So he says, concerning those who insulted you, did not insult others. But the Baal Shem Tov is saying even something greater. Even when people praise you or shame you, you say, because why? Because not to make this guy sound little, because I'm including myself in this conversation. But the more you ponder and you think about, right, with Jewish people, the existence of God, right? That the verse says, "Shiviti Hashem l'neged," God is always with me. So you realize that my house payment is really kind of trivial in the grand scheme. So you don't let these things get to you. Right? The more you think about Him, Hashem, the smaller we become. I'm not saying to minimize your existence. You're all very important. Let me tell you a story. In the old days, you know what a mashulach is? A mashulach is someone goes around asking for money. Just a joke before the story. A Gentile comes to Rabbi's house and says, "What's that on your door?" Says, "It's a mezuzah." What's a mezuzah? It's for divine protection. Could Gentiles have a mezuzah? I think so. You can order one for me too. She puts it on. A few weeks later, the Gentile knocks on the rabbi's door. I said, what? Says, "Take your mezuzah back." Well, you don't want divine protection? Says, I got something worse. So what? I got mishulachim. Got people asking for charity. See mezuzah, right? So in the old days, you guys that live in Pembroke Pines, you guys don't know what it means to live in Borough Park. Live in New York, right? Every night, ding dong. That's the way it is. Right? People need tzedakah. Anyway, so the story in the old days, when you wanted to come to ask money in the town, you don't just walk into the town and ask money. Also, there was no going door to door. People asked people to pledge on Shabbos, so you had to ask the rabbi permission to make a pledge, a plea. So this chassid comes to a town, and the rabbi over there was from the Haskalah. Haskalah is the Enlightenment movement. That was in the late 1700s, 1800s, where they basically there was a movement to abandon traditional Judaism to become more assimilate, to be accepted by everyone else. So the chassid realized that this guy was never going to let the chassid and Haskalah, the Enlightenment, and they were fighting tooth and nail for dominance in the Jewish community. So the scholar, but they all kind of look the same. So the scholar guy asked the chassid, so tell me, so what do you think about those chassidim? So the chassid said, those chassidim, all they do is think about themselves the whole day. So the rabbi said, okay, yeah, he's good. He's a keeper. He gets up, he gives a whole speech about he's collecting money for Israel. And after Shabbos, he collects, and on Sunday morning he's about to leave, and he turns to the rabbi and says, let me qualify what I was talking about. So you guys, you're so convinced of your existence. So what you do, you think about God. Because to you for sure exist. But you're not sure if God exists, so you got to think about it. By Hasidim, we know that God's existence is definite. It's our existence that is we're not so sure about. So we think about ourselves. So this is what the Baal Shem Tov is saying. We don't get overly excited for the good or for the bad. Because think about it. If we get overly excited for the good, we're prone to get overly excited for the negative as well. So this is what it is. It's being stoic. It's shtasvus is understand. You live from within. So the inner will, you're connected to your inner will, so you're able to behave in a totally different fashion, no matter what comes your way. Yes, good. And once a person is free of all this trivial stuff, now you can succeed, because now you're focused on what really matters. You look at a letter the Rebbe sent, page 17. Page 17. The Rebbe sent this letter before Pesach, and he says, so the awareness must be constant. It must be constant, and when we're free of all the other small stuff, then we could focus on what. I once heard a great saying. You ever heard of the saying, "A penny saved is a penny earned"? Yeah. So I once went to a talk about managing time and everything else. I said, "Penny saved," and everyone said, "A penny earned." Because no, penny saved is still a penny. It's a penny. You're getting caught up on narishkeit, on a penny, right? When you focused on your inner will of who you really are, then we're not distracted by the other things. And this focus has to be constant, because otherwise, he says, for those times when the awareness of God is not at the forefront of one's awareness, one can be subject to the servitude, subservience to one's impulses and surrounding world. So the question is like this: if you do everything you want to do whenever you want to do it, are you a free person? If every time you have an impulse, you feel that impulse, are you a free person? One?
You always want another thing.
Before you want to know. A person who's an addict. What's an addict? An addict is a person who can't control his impulses. Is he a free person? He's not a free person. So we think that if we fill that need, then we're free. That's not free. You see, there's a line that many people at the beginning they don't understand. There's a line that says there's no freedom except through Torah. And everyone says, Robert, we're talking about 613 laws, and that's only, the major laws. Then there's all, this law, 1A, B, all that, you know what I'm saying? And so we're talking about there's so many rules and regulations. So that's not true. Well, there are rules and regulations. But what the Torah law is allowing you to be you and not get distracted by everything else. It's allowing you. I once read a great line because I've always struggled. People come over to me and say, Rabbi, keeping Shabbat is very restrictive. You can't do this and you can't do that. And I never knew really how to put into words properly until I read this. A gentleman who wrote an essay and he said like this. He said, on Shabbat, you have the right not to answer your phone. You have the right not to go to a party or to whatever it is. So someone comes over to you and says, hey, I called you. Why didn't you answer the phone? Well, keep Shabbat. Oh, okay. I get it. Wait, you want to go to a movie? No, I stay home on Shabbat. Oh, that makes sense. So not getting offended and, oh, he's a snob. He keeps Shabbat. The Torah life, the Torah perspective gives us the freedom to be who we really are without being subservient about what other people think about the yardsticks that other people have, getting the approval of the Jones without defining ourselves by the material and physical tangible success. And that is true freedom. You see here. I said, I'm full of money. So everything in life is equal. It should be free of material concerns. So it's important in our life to have an anchor. And that's why one of the fundamental areas of Judaism is Shabbat. Why? Because God wants you, to drink wine and have chicken and gefilte fish. God's worried about the overpopulation of fish. Right? Tell you, my kids still think there's a fish called gefilte fish. I grew up, I thought the same thing. It's carp, club, right? I think I knew. I grew up in New York, what do you mean, water? Water came out of the tap, right? There was no pond, had to go to a park to see a pond, the concrete jungle. But the idea of Shabbos is, and you know how you say Sunday in Hebrew? How do you say Sunday in Hebrew? Yom Rishon. Day one. Not Sunday. It's day. It's really Yom Rishon the Shabbos. 1 day from Shabbos, because Shabbat gives us the anchor, the proper focus of what it is. And there's a great appendix on page 23. You'll read it on the topic of being true to yourself and actualizing one's unique personality. That means when you're not being judged by everyone else, then you can be you. And here's where it's really need to pay attention, because the last one is it got you. This one's really gonna mess with your head. The Kotzker Rebbe, who was known for his one-liners. If you come to Shul again, you've heard this before. He had a line in Yiddish. I'm assuming most of you guys don't speak Yiddish, so I'll say it in English, except for Joe. Joe, you speak Yiddish? Because you have a face that says that. Okay. And he said like this: if I am I, because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I, and you are not you. But if I am I because I am I, and you are you because you are you, then I am I and you are you. It means, I lost you?
Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm looking for the deer in the headlights. Right? It means a successful person possesses an inherent sense of self-worth. And he's liberated from seeking validation from other people. So if my self-worth is based on what you say, and your self-worth is based on what I say, then I have no identity and you have no identity. But if I am I, meaning my identity is based on what and what my talent and my identity is, and you have your own identity, then I am. And by the way, just to go off topic, in Chabad, we always talk about the coming of Mashiach, right? We always say talk about Mashiach. What do you think is going to happen when we come in Mashiach? We're all going to ride unicorns, right? I don't know. We're going to finally find the end of the rainbow, find the pot of gold, the leprechaun. No, maybe that's what leprechauns have beard. What's going to happen? We're talking about when Mashiach comes, it's going to be world peace. How's that possible? So the Rambam explained. The Rambam was the most down to earth. He says because the Mashiach times represent everyone's going to be satisfied with who he is. Why do people fight? Because I feel you're challenging my space or whatever it is, either material possessions, whatever it is. You're threatening me. But if I'm confident in who I am and you're confident in who you are, then I'm not threatened. And that's what it means. That's how success means. Success is you're confident in yourself. And I keep saying the words inner will. I just want to go further. It doesn't mean you're a recluse and you're hidden inside yourself. No, because the more self-confident you are as a person, the more outgoing you are, because you're not threatened by other people. And take, for example, a person in our generation like the Rebbe. If you watch videos of the Rebbe, pictures, who came to the Rebbe? I think guys like me? Well, yeah, but everybody came. Jews, Gentiles, people of all kinds. And everyone felt the ability to connect. Why? Because the Rebbe was a person who was very confident, very set and who he is. The problem starts when we don't have our own self-worth. Then we destroy not only ourselves, but also the person we're dependent on. And there's an unbelievable article you see on text number 11, where this Leon Seltzer, okay, page 18, he defines it as codependent and interdependent. So having dependency itself isn't unhealthy. All those people who think they're independent, they're idiots. They're fools. We all need other people, emotional support, whatever it is. None of us exist as on an island. We all need other people to exist in life. And that's okay. That's not the problem. It says, in a healthy interdependent relationship, however, each party is able to comfortably rely on the other for help, understanding and support. It's a value-added, like these days, they have things, men don't cry, right? You can't show weakness. That was an old thing. Now studies are coming out, it's okay to show weakness. Because when you show weakness, you show you're dependent, that actually shows you're more a complete human being. The more you try to show off that you're complete, you're independent, it doesn't make any sense. All the time, each party remains self-sufficient. The second paragraph. On the contrary, a codependent union is one where both parties are over-dependent on each other. It's a relationship in which the two individuals lean so heavily on one another, they're left off balance. And the relationship is reciprocal only that it enables both of them to avoid confronting the worst fears. So it's not good to be codependent. We're supposed to be interdependent. So a guy like Yosef Atzadik, he's in Egypt, it's okay. Because he's very confident in who he is as a person. So he's a slave, it's okay. And he's the king, also okay. He doesn't need someone else to define who he is. He is who he is. He's the I am I. So, but a codependent person, what happens is he's very controlling. The person's very controlling because I need that person for my success. So I can't stand when that person is. I actually know somebody, he lives here in this area. He come to shul. He can't come to shul. Why? Because his spouse is so dependent on his existence, he can't leave the shul. So he can't leave the home. I wish he can't leave the shul. Call part of the furniture. He can't leave the home. So his spouse is controlling and smothering. And then that person, think about it, the person in such a relationship is really selfish. They really only care about themselves. And then what happens is that they start to resent the person they're dependent on. Because you realize I'm not dependent. I have no existence for myself. I only rely on another person. That's not healthy love. Healthy love is when I love myself. I know this sounds better. When you love yourself, you have to love yourself. I think it was the Maggid Mezrich. So just like it's important for us to know what we're not good at, what we're lacking, what we need improvement, it's also good to know. It's also important to know what we're good at. Right? I know this is a little bit humorous. A man and a wife are having an argument, right? And husband side, that's it. It's no use. So what does he do? He says, "Fine, I'm wrong." No. So she's happy, right? I said, "I'm wrong." No. Well, I said, "I'm wrong." I'm wrong. I'm always wrong. I'm stupid. I said, "You're right. I'm always wrong." She's not happy. Why isn't she happy? You just said what she's saying. I'm always right. You're always wrong. But somehow she's not happy. Why? Because what you did basically said is I have no self-worth as a person. And that's not reality. The reality is obviously you do have self. You have to love yourself. You have to be confident in yourself. And then you have the ability to love someone else. And this doesn't only depend on, refer to people, also for things. People who need things are never satisfied with things. People who need things to fill their identity are never satisfied with things. There's always There's always the next thing. I always have respect when people have those flip phones. Right? And they ask, what do you need? So what? I need to make phone calls. What about internet? There's a guy in Shul, right? Herb. He only turns on the phone when he wants to turn on the phone. Like when he leaves the house, his phone's off. I said, what if someone wants to call you? Someone to call my house. What if? So then I don't answer the phone. You know, and to me, it's like, Rabbi, you didn't answer the phone. You know, I called you. No, right? So it says Perek Yoba, going back to ethics of our father, has something same thing to say about honor. It says, you know who's honored? Somebody who doesn't want to be honored. Isn't that interesting? People who are always chasing after honor, they're never honored. It's the people who don't want honor, they're honored. Same thing with things. People who don't want things are satisfied when they have things, and they seem to accumulate stuff because they're not chasing it. It somehow comes to them automatically. So success means when we actualize who we really are in this world. And the point is, we shouldn't wait. That's never satisfying. It's self-actualizing. So we shouldn't wait for the eulogy values for the eulogy. Right? We have to actualize these, who we really are as a person. Now, so to summarize, before we get to the end and the final exercise. So to summarize, in order to be successful, we have to be indifference. We have to have an indifference to everything external, and that when indifferent to external things, that brings freedom. And then once we're not bothered and unencumbered by outside influences, then we can truly have right focus, and we can pursue who we really are as a person, and then we can also have our relationship with ourselves and with other people. So the conclusion, the final exercise on page 19. So now that we went through the whole shebang, like the whole to-do, you can return to your answers you provide in exercise 1A. Are the personal goals you listed driven by inner will or by outer will? And return to the answers you provided in exercise 1B. Are the factors that impede you from realizing your goals related to excess preoccupation with outer will and objectives? If you answered yes, what can you do to increase your focus? And if you find your quest to actualize your inner will stymied, is there a way to adapt to the current thing? So now, we're going to end off this part. We're talking about how to define success. But we all have impediments. We all have struggles and things that impede us from actualizing. So next week, we're going to focus on how to overcome those obstacles to success.
Lesson 1.
The key points.
The bandwagon. 1. Jewish mysticism discusses 2 types of desire. Inner will, motivated by the object of our desire, and outer will, motivated by its benefits. 2. Inner will, generally aimed at more abstract objectives, is unchanging, satisfying, and always achievable. Outer will is